Okay, well, good morning. My name's Richard Evans. Most of you know me as the guy that gives talks about NASA's use of wikis in Sandusky, Ohio. I will be giving a NASA talk tomorrow, maybe even two, but today, right on the heels of our opening talk, talking about genealogy and the Family Search Library, I offered to the organizers to do a personal talk. So this is, I'm a little bit nervous doing this because when I'm giving a professional talk, everything is, there's a protocol for that. But when you give a personal talk on a personal use of MediaWiki, you're inviting people into your private space. What I wanted to talk about was how I personally took the responsibility for trying to convert a whole bunch of family photos and information about our family, which ultimately turns into a family tree, capturing all of that in a local MediaWiki server that I personally run for my own use. So we'll start out, and I apologize if this is too much information, but I think this is the appropriate context for the beginning here. I'm a child of the early 70s. I'm in my 50s now. My life's moments up to the age of about 30 are almost entirely captured in the printed photos of my in family albums. Many of us, for the younger folks, you may have been born into the digital world, but for many of us that are older, right, we transitioned. We were born into a world of developed film and physical albums, and now we're in an almost all digital world. All of the photos that my parents have taken, they've inherited from their parents and kept over the years are all physical pictures in physical albums. Both of my parents come from large families, and so that means lots of cousins, aunts, and uncles, lots of photos, lots of family connections to keep track of. And I confess that, as a young person, I just took everything for granted. Family is just something that's there, and you enjoy it. And then as you get older, you begin to realize that it's a structure, and that if you don't pick up the gauntlet and take care of it, right, there's a calling. So for most of my life, I've taken for granted that my parents were the keepers of the family documents and history. Let's see. Okay. And on a personal note, my dad passed away in 2015, and my mom's in good health even today. But one of the things that sort of changed in my life was I have one sibling, and it's become very clear to me that we're going to be the inheritors. My sister and I are going to be inheritors of all the family albums and lots of other family knowledge, artifacts that I have not been preparing for. And I feel that need to take that responsibility today. So this is a personal story about how I decided to take that responsibility using MediaWiki. And what I want to do is, you guys who know me know that I try to avoid saying MediaWiki. I always say MediaWiki Plus, because I feel that what really supercharges the whole capability is all of the third-party extensions. So. Before a decision is made to use MediaWiki, how did I come to that conclusion? There's some first-order questions. So one of the solutions that we could take to this problem is just hey, when the day comes, we inherit all the physical stuff, we take it out of mom and dad's closet, put it into our closet, and the problem is just kicked down the road. Well, we certainly don't want to do that. And also, because we've transitioned into pure digital, what do we do with all the digital stuff too? So we need, so ultimately there has to be, we're living in this world where there's anything before a certain date is physical, and anything after a date is digital. Wouldn't it be nice if we could unify that? So the other question is, what happens when we're gone? My sister and I both have children. They're born into the digital era. If we haven't digitized all this stuff and made the information in a way that can be passed on, it's going to be difficult for them to inherit that. Would they even know what to do with it? And then ultimately, will our grandchildren and future children even remember that we existed. And so, that comes down to the urgency of the task. Then once we realize that, this is something important that has to be done, we need to do something digital, we need to ask some technical questions. Is making physical copies of the photos reasonable? Do we have to do both sides? Because a lot of these old photos have writing, not only is the photograph that has the content, but you have to flip it over in order to find out what, some of the context that's there. Do we need to just make physical duplicates of 2 albums so that, 2 people can have 2 sets of the same stuff? That seems like a lot of work. So assuming that we can digitize them, why not just post them all to some online service like Flickr, Facebook, Shutterfly, or whatever? Well, I personally have a big problem with this because I'm basically giving what is most precious to us, our life memories, over to some impartial cloud service that, the minute that it's not in their best interest to host it for free will immediately become a burden to me and my family. So what about professional photo management software? Certainly photographers have solved this problem. There's no doubt there's tower PCs in photographers' homes with terabyte hard drives, and they've got professional software to keep track of everything, and I'm sure that's possible, but then that misses the dimension of how, okay, that's great, come to my house and you can see pictures. That doesn't really work. So one of the things I really wanted to be able to do was, if we're going to solve this problem, I want to make it so that the people who are in these photos, the people who care, we can just send them links. Either text them a link to, hey, I found this great photo of you from 1981, or whatever, and it would all be online. So I know I'll set up my own web server and use some web-based photo management software. So before I chose MediaWiki, I said, well, the open source community has probably solved this problem as well. And I began looking at different options. And so just to name a few, there's one called Image, one called PhotoPrism, PeeWeGo, and LibrePhoto, I think, is just an emerging one. I don't know too much about that. I personally used PeeWeGo for a couple of years. And ultimately, I got frustrated with it because it wasn't doing everything that I wanted to do. And I kept thinking to myself, MediaWiki can do this, right? So when you think of choosing photo management software, you tend not to think of MediaWiki. So that leads me to a chart that I use in all of my presentations, or I'm going to lead into it, but basically this is a metaphor. So we live in a world where there are different paradigms of software for different purposes. And my attempt to try to make an analogy here is you look up at the night sky and you see constellations. And each constellation kind of represents a different thing. What I'm trying to imply here is that each software group, like photo management software would be in a constellation, or maybe, what are some of the other examples I've got? Customer relationship management, CRM software would be its own constellation. So you wouldn't look for photo management software at a CRM website. Because so the point is that these constellations have boundaries. And you don't tend to look, if you're trying to solve problem X, you don't look in constellation Y for a solution. But this is the epiphany. What I came to realize is that core MediaWiki, once it's been supercharged with a couple of extensions that allow you to store data, put structured data into the pages, query that data back out in other pages, and when you begin to do comment streams and specific media extensions and form extensions, you begin to get this very powerful foundation for building database applications. So fun fact 1, you can store data in the pages. Fun fact 2, you can query that data back out. That gives you the ability to build database applications with other extensions. Basically what happens is that MediaWiki, which I would imagine that it would be undisputed that it is wiki software par excellence in the wiki constellation. But the takeaway from this chart is the idea that once you realize that these third-party extensions will allow you to absorb the functions of the other software groups. So MediaWiki may not be the best customer relationship management software, but it can perform the basic functions well enough that it's a good alternative. So that's true for photo management also. And so the takeaway here is you take core MediaWiki, which is MediaWiki software par excellence. You add the whole ensemble of third-party extensions, you get what I call MediaWiki Plus, and you're off to the races to build pretty much any kind of application that you want. Now, there are some pros and cons here, so it's not for everybody. Starting out with the cons, I would say that the MediaWiki problem is the blank page problem. So you install MediaWiki, you have all these great extensions, maybe they're all pre-configured with some kind of an installer. You still have a blank page. But the problem is analogous to Microsoft, or to opening up a word processor and seeing a blank page in a word processor application, opening up a spreadsheet program and seeing a blank spreadsheet. You have to put all the intelligence into this. Now, that can be a reason not, I've put it in with sort of, it's both a pro and a con, depending on who you are. So you'll essentially have to build everything yourself, but that's okay. Writing documents is fun for people who love to write documents. Building spreadsheets is fun for people who love spreadsheets. And building workflows and electronic processes in MediaWiki Plus is fun for those who know how to do that. A core strength of MediaWiki is its ability to edit all the pages and files as the raw materials of the site. Another core strength is the templating. And so once you get an understanding of the power of templating in MediaWiki, you will find that nothing else competes in that functional domain. It's extremely powerful for standardizing information. You can add custom data structures and process workflows with extensions like Semantic MediaWiki and Cargo. And you can have drag and drop files. So you can create pages for albums and drag and drop files from your desktop using extensions like Simple Batch Upload, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So social functions like threaded comments are possible using the comment streams extension. So, you begin to see all the pieces come into focus, where if you're trying to build something that behaves very much like a social media website, very much like a photo management website, does all of these things, all of the tools are there for you to piece it together. So I came up with a, I'm going to reveal my sort of project management bent, vision, mission, values, and strategy. Ultimately, what I want is a place on the web that's 100% mine, allows me to store, manage, search, maintain, and share my family data with family and friends to capture context and stories better than anything anyone else is offering to date. To that end, the mission is basically to permanently solve the problem of what to do about my family photos by taking full responsibility for managing all the data and developing and maintaining the privately owned, privately operated wiki-based website that fulfills my vision for myself, my family, and for my future generations. Some values. Digital sovereignty is a topic that means more and more to me every day. We live in a world where the #1 solution to your IT problems is to outsource it. And if data is your product, if that's your lifeblood, then outsourcing it to me seems like a bad idea. When you outsource your data to some other organization, to some other entity, you're contractually limited by what interface they allow you to use. So to me, digital sovereignty is reclaiming the responsibility for the information, being able to put it to work and use it as we see fit. I care about liberty. And you might say, well, liberty is an interesting value to bring up in this conference. And so I go back to open source software as being free. What does free mean? Some people think, free as in it doesn't cost anything. But the alternative answer to what free means is it gives you the power, right, to alter the code for your own purposes, to contribute back, to be part of something. And so to me, when you're using a proprietary solution with closed code, then you don't have liberty. Even if you do own it running on your system. So liberty to me is a head nod towards open source. Life cycle planning, I don't want to solve this problem and then 2 or 3 years from now, it's completely unsupported and no one knows what to do with it. So it matters to me that there's a long-term vision for it. Confidentiality, integrity, and availability, these I'm just borrowing right out of the cybersecurity playbook. These are the 3 pillars of cybersecurity. I care about structured data. I don't want it to just be raw, unprocessed text. I want faceted search, and I want family engagement. I don't want this thing to be a computer science experiment. I want my grandma, my aunts and uncles to be able to use it. I will spare you the strategy. That's basically saying the mapping of my values to the tools that I've employed within the MediaWiki ecosystem to fulfill this vision. What I do want to do is jump right into some of the high-level goals. And then once we get through this, I'll start showing you screenshots of how it actually looks and works. So my number one goal is I want an admin to be able to create albums with structured data, using forms, and easily drag and drop files, particularly photos, into them. So that's like goal number one, be able to create albums, be able to put images in them, be able to display them. Users can add comments once the albums are created and the images have been added. Users can come in and add their own comments, and they can tag the photo. So adding context and tagging is not an admin job. That is a collaborative. That's a community job for the users, and the users in this case, family and friends. I want my users to be able to search, text, and see results as a collection of photos and comments containing the searched text. So instead of just doing a simple MediaWiki search in the top right, I wanted to create custom search tools that allow, if I'm looking for Uncle Bob, right, and his Siamese cat, right, I want to be able to search those terms and get those photos with that annotation. I want to be able to create a database of people. I want to be able to create a database of places, events, and things. I've put some examples on there for what I mean by that. The people database is easy, because what I realized is that once you start going through all these family photos, people start to show up, the same people, right? There's mom again, there's dad again. And so you want to create a database of the people that are in your life. And so it started out, of course, with my immediate family, but then as I was doing more and more photos, I started adding more people. And one of the nice things about having a database of people is that you can then further annotate facts about the people. So you can go to the person's page and click the edit button, get a nice little form, and you can fill out all the pertinent details about them. What I'm trying to keep my eye on is not doxing people. My understanding is that's a thing in the world. And so sometimes sharing too much information about people is delicate. So these fields are not mandatory. What I tend to do is document more completely the people who have passed away. And a lot of the people that are living, I try to keep the data real limited on that. And then places. So the people, places, events, and things, if you think about this as 5 separate tagging structures. So you go to a photo and you say, are there any people in it? Okay, tag them. Where is it, right? Tag the location. What is the event? Is it a birthday? Is it a picnic? Is it, what is the purpose? What's going on in this photo? And then the thing is sort of a catch-all. So like, my old Volkswagens, my first guitar, things like that are the things. So then what you can do with the faceted search is then you can begin to curate, show me all the pictures of me on Christmas morning with the family dog, right? And from 3,000 photos, you get the 7 that match that criteria. And it's not AI, it's just good old-fashioned faceted search based on the structured data that you put into the tagging. So number 5, I want the people pages to automatically generate family tree structures. So when I add people into the people database, one of the questions I'm asking is, who are their parents? What are their family relations? And so I have that as structured data with the people. Why not be able to display that graphically? And if you haven't found it yet, there's an extension called Mermaid. And Mermaid syntax allows you to describe graphical tree structures using text. And so with a tool like Semantic MediaWiki, which can search for the people, return the people results with their relationships, feed that all into a template that knows how to generate a family tree, and that family tree just magically shows up on the person's page. So then what you can do is actually surf through your family tree. Like, it doesn't try to give you 10 generations up the tree. It always tries to the person of interest, and then who their parents were, siblings, partners, and any children. And then from there, you can navigate up and down the structure. So then number 6 is that each person, place, thing, an event, and named collection are all shown with, so when you visit these pages, these tags that you create are pages in and of themselves. So if you create a tag for my first guitar, then when you visit that page, you get automatically are all the pictures of my first guitar with additional faceted search tools right there. So that's pretty much, that's a set of goals, a project definition, mission and values, strategy, and these are the goals. And so this is what it looks like right now. It's a very unassuming front end. Again, this is a personal site. It's not meant to, I'm not trying to make this perfect for the world. This is MediaWiki for personal use. I've got 3 fields in there for different facets that you can search for. On the menu on the top, if you're curious about what skin I'm using, it's the chameleon skin, specifically using the clean layout. And so it gives you a nice banner bar at the top. I have personally styled it to be my favorite, my personal version of a dark mode. And what you're going to find is that dark mode styling is not consistent yet. So I'm still in the process. So some of these, you're going to strobe alert for the audience, right? I'm going to go back and forth between dark mode and light mode in some of these screenshots. But there's a pull-down menu at the top for albums. And when you look at it, you get a dynamically generated list of the albums that have been created. You can see, obviously, there's an arbitrary title for the album. There's some data, 2 columns of data for the photos, and then the running total. So in green, what you'll see is the number of images in that album, and then the next column over is kind of like a cumulative count. So you can see how the total number of images in the system is growing based on the albums. The albums have an owner. So for example, some of the photo albums were my sister's, so she would be the owner of those albums. So when I'm digitizing these and creating them in this system, I'm keeping track of whose albums they are. So imagine a future where there's lots and lots and lots of albums. If we're just looking for my mom's albums, K, you know, that would just be a way to filter that list down. So this is a screenshot from the top of the page, and then I scrolled down and took another screenshot at the bottom. And so you can see totally, right now I've got 42 albums and 2,300 some images. And that's what the front door to selecting an album looks like. Now, what I wanted to do is kind of walk you through what it's like to create an album and add pictures to it. So there's a link. I didn't do a good job of screenshotting where the link is, but when you go to the Create Album tool, right, it's a page forms form. It lets you fill in the details here. And if you guys can see that, I apologize if it's small. This is an album called MudCon Spring 2025 at NASA in Ohio. So if for those of us that were at that meeting last year, we did have a tour and we took some pictures, and I realized that they were still sitting on my hard drive as I was building these charts at the last minute. And so I thought, what a better way to test the system is to try to add these things. So I'm creating an album for the tour pictures that I took at last year's MudCon. And after I hit save, you can see that it showed up as number 36 in the list. Now, it didn't, you can sort this however you want. I think I'm sorting it in alphabetical order according to the album name. So, if you were expecting it to be at the bottom of the list because it's the newest one, that's just the date-created sort feature. But it happens to be number 36, and so they're all hyperlinked, and so now that the album is created, I can click on it, and you can see kind of it's another nice dark mode styled page. It's showing the basics of the album with no content. So what I want to draw your attention to is in the top right. What I didn't want to do was there's a tool for dragging and dropping photos in there, and I didn't want that to be there all the time. So I created an option to toggle the file upload button, and that's basically done with page forms and the auto edit feature, the auto edit parser function that allows you to create a button that actually alters the page content, template content behind the page. And so if you click that, you can toggle it from uploads off to uploads on, And when you do, you get the Uploads widget. This comes from the extension Simple Batch Upload. One of the wonderful things about Simple Batch Upload is it allows you to write a formula for how the uploaded files will be named in the upload process. So that means that if you've got pictures on your hard drive that are like picture 1, picture 2, picture 3, and somebody else had already uploaded picture 1, picture 2, picture 3, you can see that there's going to be a conflict. So what I do in the Simple Batch Upload widget is for every place that I add this widget, and by widget I don't mean extensions widget, I mean it's a template that I drop into the overall page. Each page has an underlying wiki database ID, and I use the wiki database ID as a prefix to the image. So if you're uploading image 1, and this album happens to be page number 798 in the database, then it's going to be 798-image1. And that resolves all of the potential naming conflicts. So that means that you can have multiple images in the wiki that are all named image 1 as long as they're in different albums. So then I can click the little button to open up a file explorer. I navigate to the folder on my desktop where my pictures from last year's tour are kept, and I just highlight them and drag them over onto the upload button. That goes through a really nice little JavaScript run progress. So if you have multiple images going in, each one of them has their own progress bar, and it's really enjoyable to watch. It goes through the process, uploads all the images, names them correctly for the album, and then suddenly they show. And so this is when the page has been refreshed after the images have been uploaded, and you can see that I've got templates for all of the image results. And it's got columns. The column on the far left is kind of like a counter, but it also has a nice little icon that takes me to the raw media. So oftentimes when we're sitting and talking about, discussing what content is in the image, we want to zoom in on it, right? And so I can just right-click on that and go right to the full-sized image directly. Then there's the image itself in terms of the search results. And then you can see, if you're familiar with comment streams, you'll recognize that as a miniaturized comment button. And so let's see here. Yeah, so now I've got 15 images in the album. The album has a name and a description. I've added a link. When I created the album, I added the link into the description. Each of the images are now numbered, and there's a little button on the right of each image that allows me to add comments. And so originally, comments were like, you had like one comment thread. You could add comment streams once per page. But one of the features that's happened in the past few years, I don't know how long it's been the case, is that you can add an ID to each comment stream tag, and then you can have as many comment streams as you want. And so for a comment stream ID tag, I chose to use the database ID of the image that it's commenting on. So that means I can now have bidirectional traceability between the comments and the images. So I could go to an image and find the comments for it, and I could go to a comment and find the image for it, and I can do that in semantic queries and pull this stuff together any way I want when I need to. The other cool feature is that you can actually comment, you can have multiple comments open at the same time. This was a little buggy when I first started doing it. I worked with the developers, and they've added the improvements, and so now one of the nice things is that I can have multiple images, and so what I tend to do is copy and paste a lot of text from, like I'll craft the comment for one image, and that comment tends to be meaningful for lots of other images. So then I'll just want to like copy and paste it multiple times for all the other images, and the ability to actually open up all the comments simultaneously for edit is a really nice new feature of comment streams. So then when I hit save, the comments are added into the system, and then I can go, let's see, the last thing I wanted to show was, yeah, we can go, so we're done, we've kind of annotated these things, so let's go back to the table, and now you can see on the column to the right of item number 36 is it showing the 15 images. So again, you can see that the data is updating in real time. We go back to the home page, and I type in MudCon as the first search term. This would have produced no results before we did what we just did, but now it finds the images that we added based on the terms that are in there, and I admit I haven't shown you tagging. That will have to be another talk. So tagging is still a bit in work, and I'll try to come back and report on that at the next conference. So where are we at now? So that's albums and commenting and the way to display the photos within the album in a page. Now we want to talk about people. This will get us to the family tree section. And let me take a check on the time. All right. Similarly, I have a people table. This is every person in this table is someone in my life, someone in the photos that I've documented. At the very bottom, you can see I've got 83 people. My great-grandfather, Edward James Hollis, from the 1880s. This table is listing in chronological order by the birth decade. And so you can see the headers are repeated when the decade changes. So one of the quick ways to find the person you're looking for is guesstimate what decade they were born in, find that block, and then try to find them. There's a button to add a new person. So this is my great-grandfather, Edward James Hollis. And you can see I've got a couple of the fields. Some of them you'll say, oh, these are obvious. Let me zero in here for a moment. I wanted to be able to add a portrait. That'll come into play in the family tree. I wanted to be able to identify the birth decade. To me, the birth decade combined with the name is what I use to try to find people, because I don't want to use the exact birth date, because that means I have to have the birth date. And so what I wanted was a quick and dirty way to differentiate Edward James Hollis, born in the 1880s, from Edward James Hollis, born in the 1970s. Right, so we're going to have multiple names repeat as they do in families, so that the decade of birth is sort of the differentiating factor. I have another section there for, like what was their last name when they were born, what last names did they take over their life, and nicknames, and let's see, then we move down here and you can see I've got things like family relationships. I wanted to capture significant others, children, and trying to very delicately differentiate between acknowledging birth parents and recognizing parents who did the work of investing in the children, because it's not always one-to-one. And okay, so having done all that with all the people, this is what kind of a tree structure we get from the mermaid extension. So you basically just, at the top of the page, you get sort of the tabular detail. You can see sort of a quick summary, an info box, kind of, rather than a traditional info box on the right-hand side. I've put it all up to the top, and then you automatically get the relationship structure below. And so I can see here, is the mouse showing up on this? Let me get a pointer. So this is my great-great-grandfather, and he had 2 wives over the course of his life, and he had 3 children. And I don't have any data on his parents before that, so it just kind of shows a generic icon. But if I were to click on his name card there, I can then, if I want to go down here to his son, Raymond, who is my grandfather, I can click on Raymond, and then I bring Raymond into focus. And now you can see that Edward James is Raymond's father, and you can see that Raymond had 3 children, Carolyn, Kay, and Brian. And Kay is my mother. If I were to click on her, it would take us to this tree, and you can see that her parents are Raymond and Virginia, and her husband was Richard, and she has these 2 siblings. So if we go back up a little bit, you can see that Raymond has 3 children, and when we click on one of the children, Catherine, my mother, we can see that now we're focused on Catherine's relationship structure. Her spouse is shown in the same box with her, and her siblings are shown in sort of a separated box over to the side. The point is that that's your aunts and uncles, and you can kind of get the cousin aunts and uncles structure in there as well. And then if we come down here, you can see that my parents had 2 children, my sister and I. If we clicked on myself, that brings me into focus, and you have my immediate family structure and relationships and my 2 sons, and that's how the family tree structure works. All of that is based on the twofold benefit of capturing, building a database of people, capturing the details about them as structured data, being able to use that people database for tagging photos, and also being able to benefit from navigating or crawling through the structure of your family. At the bottom of this page, I just scrolled down a little bit. I used the header tabs extension that allows me to give a section at the bottom that shows different things you can do at the person page. The first one is obviously show me all the photos that this person appears in. And then I have a tab for collecting stories. This is comment streams, skinned a little bit differently. So this is where I would capture like fun stories about my grandfather, or in this case myself, on my page. And so summarizing, I've got about 43 albums to date, 88 people defined in my database, 2,794 photos. I'm about halfway done. I hope to have this whole family picture thing finished by the end of the calendar year. I didn't talk too much about the tagging. I would like to come back and share that with you guys later. Bottom line is MediaWiki Plus has what it takes to do family photos and family trees. And so I'll say thank you. Do we have time for questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Rich, this is amazing. My only question is, are you able to share like any templates or like a starter pack or something?
I'm able to. I don't have the tools to do it. So actually, I was hoping someone, like that's an audience plant question almost. I have for years been saying that what the MediaWiki community needs is a marketplace of templates that do things, out-of-the-box templates. So if somebody builds a tool like this, I can export everything as an XML file and email it to you, or I could publish it on the web for you to download, but you wouldn't find it if you didn't know me personally. So my question to the community is, how can we create a marketplace for user-made templates?
So I think I have an answer to you about that, which is the PagePort and Page Exchange extensions. PagePort has a main script that will say, okay, here are the templates you wanted to use, and here are the categories, and here are the MediaWiki pages. Okay, we're going to create a directory in the file structure with that and each of these in a format that you then put in a GitHub repo, and you tell Page Exchange,
Yeah.
hey, I want to download from there.
Yep.
And it will read that and say, okay, I'm going to import these 5 templates and these 3 categories.
Yes.
And these MediaWiki.
Peace. Got it. The problem is, how do people find the GitHub repository? So when I say marketplace, I don't mean storage mechanism. I mean, how do we go to MediaWiki.org and find a link on the main page that says, here is a collection of user-created, out-of-the-box workflows that allow you, to solve the blank page problem. You had your hand up.
Yes. You thought through a lot of things on this very impressively, but about hosting, how is that going to get passed along to future generations in terms of placing costs? I'm just curious.
Great question. I had a chart, I think.
Can you repeat the question?
Oh yeah, so the question was how to handle the lifecycle management of a particular web host. So in the chart that I gave on technical questions, no, on the strategies. If you remember, I had the vision, mission, and whatnot. One of them was strategies, and I glossed over that. I apologize. One of the items in the strategy for digital sovereignty was self-hosting. Self-hosting I use DigitalOcean. I use a droplet. It basically gives me root access to a Linux system, and so then the wiki becomes the image folder, the database, and that's it. So what I have to pass on to somebody that wants to maintain this going forward is I archive at regular intervals the database and the SQL database dump and a zip file of all the images to a local PC that I have and the rest of it I can recreate. So there's nothing about, because all of the photo management templates that I've created are just all part of the Wiki database.
So, going back to the distribution part.
Yes.
That is a question that
We actually can make it better.
going back to the distribution part, that's a question that we've been talking about for, I don't know, I remember it being brought up in Barcelona, the first conference we had there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's, we know that's a problem. What can we do about it? Maybe we set up a section on MediaWiki.org that points to these GitHub. I mean, we need people, first of all, to start creating GitHub
Yeah.
repositories like this, and then we can point to them and say, you know.
Yeah. If I may be so bold, I would like to propose that the MediaWiki stakeholders nonprofit group take up the gauntlet for that task.
That is bold.
Sorry, I have a comment and a question. There is, to the extent that there's a clearinghouse at all, on the Page Exchange extension page, there's a list of existing Page Exchange packages, although it's not really, well advertised or anything, but it is there.
That's what I wanted to say.
Oh, okay. Oh, great. Okay. I had my own question, which is maybe it's the entrepreneur in me. But one really interesting thing is there's literally everyone in the world could use a solution for digitizing and collecting and cataloging their photos. Is there a product and/or business that can come out of this?
I'm sure there is. I will leave that to those who are inclined to do so. My only hope would be that let's just say that all of the work that I've done building the templates, all I care about is that it's licensed so that it's guaranteed to be open source. So the business to be done would be for someone to come in and do the work of setting it up for you. Because if you go back to my pros and cons charts, right, I'm benefiting because I do MediaWiki professionally, right? I get to go home and enjoy the benefits of that knowledge. So for those who are inspired by this but don't want to become MediaWiki command line experts, I think that's where your entrepreneur opportunities are.
I just had a question for the Page Exchange people. I went to the page, there's a bulleted list of different projects. Is that what y'all are talking about?
Yes.
That's pretty minimal. Yeah, we need to do better.
Well, okay. I mean, minimal. I mean, yeah, we need more packages. But yeah.
I'm not,
Okay. Well, so my commitment to the community would be by the end of the calendar year, I will publish this on GitHub so that everyone can replicate it and contribute if they want.